What is up? It's been a while, but let us kick off. These are the 7 things you need to give up on as a software engineer if you want to become a senior software engineer. Now, preface. Why do I get to say this? In my career, I've managed to hire almost over 50 to 80 engineers and help them see their path go from junior to mid to sometimes senior. Now, I'll personally say that I'm not much of a believer in titles, but that's just my opinion. But I do understand that different people have different views with it when it comes to titles or positions when it goes in hierarchy perspective. Now, a lot of the advice I'm going to be giving is for Series B to below startups, which is if you're an enterprise where you're hired for a specific role that's highly technical on that role itself, where you've just got a niche job, this might not be the video for you. But if you're working or looking to work in a company that's less than 400 to 500 people and employees, which is a good Series B, Series C company, then you most likely want to pay attention to this. Alright, so let us start off with the first point. The first point is basically to refer about you writing code for your computer and not for other software engineers. Now, I do understand that everyone needs to go and create performant code. That's pretty much part of why sometimes you're hired, especially if you're a backend engineer, sometimes you're a front-end engineer. But that does not mean it needs to come at a sacrifice of quality in the way people understand and perceive your code. This sometimes means where you're truncating your code to look cool and fancy and sometimes a little more performant, but when it actually comes to debugging your code or finding a bug in something, it becomes significantly more difficult for the next person or even yourself when you want to come and look at this project down the road. So remember to write performant code, yes, but not at a cost or sacrifice of illegibility. People still need to be able to understand code. You're not writing code for computers in this day and age where you get pretty performant computers, but you're actually writing code that matches both humanistic abilities to read code as well as computers' ways to read code. Again, I'm not talking about reading bad code, write good code, but also keep in mind the next person who's going to read this code, even if that might be yourself in a few days' time. Now, the other thing you need to focus on if you want to start going into a senior software engineering role and you want to give up on this thing, the other thing you want to give up on is not caring about your business's growth. And this is what I mean when I said that this might not apply to enterprise software engineers, because you're enterprise, you're most likely going to be doing well. However, if you're working for a company that is in that growth phase, is looking to become better, just writing code for the sake of code and not actually understanding why you're writing this code is not going to be something good for you. So if you really want to bump up and go to that next level, understand how your engineering and your efforts can actually help the business grow. Help your team, help them grow the company. You are an asset and you're probably one of the most powerful assets in your business. So you need to understand how your skill set can be used to help the company grow. So stop not caring about growth. Care about it. Third thing you need to give up on if you want to become a good software engineer, a senior software engineer, is just copying and pasting things on Stack Overflow. Now, counter to what I say and what everyone says, yes, I copy a lot of things as well, but I try to understand the reasoning behind it. Fundamentals are important for software engineers, and it'll come into existence for my next point. You need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. A, because you're responsible as a senior engineer for what actually happens to the business as a responsibility of your code. So you want to know what you're actually putting into it. It's like feeding your child or your friend, your family member, something that just looks good and feels good, but it's not actually good food. You don't know what you actually is the ingredient part of the food. Blabbled a bit there, but you know what I mean. So make sure, yes, copy paste code, get inspired by it, but also understand what you're actually pasting in so you can be accountable for it when time comes. The fourth thing you need to give up on as a software engineer if you want to go to senior is coding for the file but not for the folder. What I mean by that is sometimes when you're building a particular feature or solving an issue, it's very easy for us to get isolated into that very file that we're solving the problem on. But then what that does is we introduce patterns that don't necessarily align with other patterns across the entire project. And yes, what I'm referring to is architecture. Right? You need to ensure that when you want to go from that junior, mid to a senior level role, you're no longer coding just for a singular file, but you're considering architecture, which is honestly one of the most singular important factors that I or any other hiring manager would look for when you're trying to understand the seniority of a software engineer, is the ability to interpret, understand, and create good architectural code. So make sure you're not just coding for the file, but you're coding for the entire project. Now, the other thing you need to stop giving on, and this is absolutely paramount, is mentoring, right? I mean, not mentoring. You need to be able to sit down and talk to your junior staff. You need to be able to help people who don't know what you know. And that doesn't need to be in terms of years. Maybe you know something about regex that they don't know. Maybe you know something about microarchitecture that someone else doesn't know, and so on and so forth. your ability to communicate your knowledge and pass it on to someone else is going to be a significant factor in helping you scale up the ladder, and is going to be absolutely important for anything you want in your career when you want to climb up. Enough statistics from HBR or MIT go to show that 80% of your, or maybe let's say 60% of your entire career trajectory or your growth is actually based on your personable skills, 40% being your technical skills, 20% in some cases. So make sure that if you're not doing this already, you absolutely are going to be doing this moving ahead. Find a way to go ahead and mentor people, whether it's not at your job, maybe you're the junior most person, that's fine. Start teaching someone. Find a university student you want to help out. Find someone who does not know what you know and teach them something. Maybe a designer, cross-member relations, right? Go ahead and show other people in your business, people who are not software engineers, how your code can be made better using their knowledge, or vice versa. Ensure that you can pass knowledge on, because that is going to be a primal part of anything that has to do with the word senior in it, because a lot of the time senior necessarily means that you are a guide. So if you can communicate well, hold patience, have strong communication skills, and be very clear in the way you can mentor, teach, and be patient with your team members, that is going to be a very big signal for someone to go ahead and promote you to that senior level. The other thing you want to give up, the sixth point, is not looking to improve your communication skills, and that means not asking questions. Yes, I'm actually telling you to improve your skills and ask more questions. That comes from the previous points that I've made. Part of mentoring, or whatever it may be, is actually having good communication skills. And this is not only just with your junior staff member or the technical side, but your non-technical team members as well. A large part of software engineering is demystifying code to people who don't understand it. Yes, we have the privilege of understanding how a powerful language works, but not many people do. And it does not mean you're in a higher position to them just because you understand it. What it means is it gives you the responsibility to actually sit down and say, this is why this happens. And the ability to translate code from machine code, or code that other software engineers understand, to business perspectives, to people who are non-technical, is an absolute superpower. I can personally tell you, I've closed a lot of business deals, right? 6-figure deals, and I've even helped climb the ladder myself, and other people help do that as well, by communicating knowledge that is technical in a very non-technical way. I've done courses where I go ahead and correlate non-technical people with technical stuff by finding correlations with realistic things, right? Whether I'm explaining Redux to someone, whether I'm explaining JavaScript or for loops to someone, I try my best to go ahead and introduce commonality factors that other people understand. Now that's just an example that I do. There are different ways that you can do it as well. So that means improving your communication skills with other people, because it's a business, right? It involves a team to grow your business, and the way you communicate with them is a high chance going to be an indicative of how good you're going to be as a leader, senior software engineer, technical, non-technical. And to that point, I also want to add the ability to actually ask questions. I think there's this notion where if you're senior, it's going to be embarrassing if you ask questions, and that's absolutely not true. The mark of intelligence, in my opinion, of a person is not defined by the answers they give, but the questions they ask. So based upon the questions you ask, often not, is actually a very good indicator for most managers to go ahead and find out where you are in terms of your capabilities. And I say this not from just my experience, but I run a Slack group that has over 60 of the most powerful CTOs in Australia and the world. And we often talk about these candid topics. That's where this question actually came from, and this video came from. So make sure you spend some time actually articulating your understanding of logic and code to your other non-technical team members, your product managers, your designers, your managers, whoever it is. And also ask the right questions. Ask questions. You might think that it's a dumb question, but it actually might be a very intelligent question to ask. So that's something to consider. And finally, the last thing you should absolutely stop giving on, and this is true with anything if you're watching this video, if you're not software, is just doing what's enough. Absolutely, if you clock in at 9 and clock out at 5, that is not what people want. And I'm not saying overwork yourself, absolutely not. I'm quite opposite that. But what I'm trying to say is, if you just do what is needed, you'll always get what was given to you, right? If you want more, if you want to beat and go ahead of everyone else who's also competing, maybe for the same position or for the same area, what you need to do is go above and beyond to deliver that. And that might not mean working extra hours. It just might mean being more interested in the business, right? It might just mean that you're not just a software engineer, but you're also adding in practicality around data management. You're adding in information around, if you're a backend engineer, you want to show how the front-end engineers can do a better job by doing X, Y, and Z. It's showing more interest into the business and into your job that helps people understand that, hey, this person is not just anyone else. They actually care and they're going above and beyond to become what they want to be, which is the next level, the senior engineer. So these are the 7 things that you should absolutely give up on if you want to go ahead and focus on becoming a better, and if not, senior software engineer. If you're curious to know, yes, it's very cold where I am. I'm based in Sydney right now, which is why I've got the warm jacket on. And again, I'm apologetic for being very tardy on these videos. I'm going to become significantly more consistent and launch at least 2 videos every week for the following week, so that you get some of the knowledge that I have passed on to you, whether it has to do with software engineering, building a business, scaling to 3,000 users in a couple of weeks, and how I grow my own startups, whether it has to be from the technical or from the founder side. That is all for this video. I hope you have a fantastic day ahead. Take care, and let me know in the comments if you liked what I just said and if there's something else you want me to cover.